All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and man, we have some slightly bad news. Not really bad, but an injury update. Washington defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman, top 10 defensive tackle in the NFL, Daron Payne, has a slight toe injury, and he is considered day-to-day. He won't practice today with Josh Harris's intro and everybody else coming out for their opening training camp practice. Very optimistic training camp practice. Again, Josh Harris is there. You've had random people like Ryan Clark, all kinds of, even Marty Herney's out there. It's like a real celebration type of thing. It's an event for real. It's not a typical first day of training camp practice. But either way, Daron Payne will not participate. He'll probably be there, but he just won't be like running around with everybody else. It's no pads anyway, so it's not like a really serious practice that he's missing. But of course, you prefer to have him out there. So we got to talk about who's going to get a lot of the snaps in his place. Who is going to take advantage of the fact that Daron Payne is not out there day to day? Who knows what day to day means? I mean, maybe he doesn't practice today, but he practices tomorrow, or maybe he takes like a week off, a week or two off. We'll see. I'll keep you updated on that. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm the like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. All of the updates, injury updates, daily training camp analysis. I'm gonna upload daily clips of practice stuff that happened throughout training camp every day that we practice, and the reporters have access to the practice. I will be uploading clips from those practices and doing a separate video doing a full breakdown analysis of each position group from that practice, starting with quarterback to running back, wide receiver, offensive line, breaking it up like that all the way down to the DBs. And of course, man, make sure you stay tuned for all of the film sessions I'm working on for this rookie class. I'm still working on a few more Rico reports for all of the random stuff that's in between that kind of falls through the cracks, just random information, stats, rankings, how people feel about our team, random things like that. So y'all already know how the Rico reports go, so stay tuned for all of the content. Without further ado, man, let's jump to it. Let's get it.
You tell your family you're gonna be a commander.
All right, so it's been reported that Daron Payne has a minor toe injury and will not practice today. Per team spokesman, Payne is considered day-to-day. And I mean, where did this exactly come from? Because Ron Rivera just held a press conference yesterday, and that was after all of the players went through all of their like physical training. Everybody tested well, everybody passed their physicals, all of that type of stuff. And Ron Rivera had a press conference after that, and he didn't mention Daron Payne being hurt. So was this just on the way to the facilities? Was this man just getting dressed and stubbed his toe really bad? I don't know. Maybe this is an injury that was already there, and we're just now finding out about it. And he was just at least healthy enough to pass his physical. And maybe it's like the type of injury to where, like, if we had a game today, he would play, but it's just not worth playing on it right now when it's just a regular training camp practice. And you know, training camp is known for being pads, contact, and things like that. We're not even having that today. We're going to discuss a little bit of that by the end of the video. But again, most importantly for Daron Payne, it doesn't sound like the injury's bad. Again, it's just day to day. Who knows if that means he just misses 1 or 2 practices, or if he misses a week or 2. We'll see. But again, the way everybody's talking about it, it just sounds like something that we don't need to necessarily worry about. But at the same time, who's going to get those snaps in his place? Again, today is no contact, no pads or anything like that. We'll get to that soon when it comes to training camp. But today, there's none of that. So it's not like these are just some ridiculous snaps that Daron Payne's missing. And if anybody, I mean, he just got his payday. He's earned it. It's not like he's one of those guys that needs those snaps. So who are some of the guys behind him that can really use those snaps to develop themselves and to really progress in this defense? Well, I feel like obviously Phidarian Mathis should be first in line. Our second round pick from last year that barely played, got hurt within like the first or second quarter of the first game of the season against the Jaguars last year. Didn't get to see him really at all last year, and he was supposed to be our dominant nose tackle, eating up double teams, interior defensive linemen, so that Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen can get one-on-ones when they're trying to rush the passer and things like that. And then of course Phidarian Mathis also was supposed to just give Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen some rest. I mean, there were a lot of games where Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne were each playing like 90-something% of the snaps, and that's not typical for defensive linemen, especially interior defensive defensive lineman. So we really missed Phidarian Mathis last year, if at the very least, at least to help with the rotation and give Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen some rest during games and things like that. So I like Phidarian Mathis a lot. I like his potential, especially what he showed us in the preseason. So I'm really excited about what he's going to do this upcoming season, because he's been working really hard to get back healthy. And I feel like he's even developed a little bit of better technique since he got hurt. I mean, when you're sitting down and you have nothing better to do, I would hope you would. I mean, Chase Young has shown that you can come back from a long-term injury and not come back with much better technique. But even just some of the little things I've seen throughout the offseason from Phidarian Mathis working out, it looks like that he may look a little different from how he looked last year, a little less raw. I'm not expecting him to be like a polished prospect, but I think he has improved a little bit technique wise. But we got to see in training camp. We'll see in that joint practice against the Ravens. We'll see in the preseason, and we'll definitely see early into the regular season, especially against the Arizona Cardinals, that's considered arguably the weakest team in the NFL. But I'm really excited for him, man, because again, he's supposed to be a double team eater, so that Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, and Chase Young have one-on-ones throughout the rest of the O-line, or even unblocked depending on the situation. But at the same time, I like him to come in there with only 4 defensive linemen and deal with his little situation where if like Jonathan Allen needs to sit for a second, Daron Payne and Phidarian Mathis go out there and hold down the run game and rush the passer potentially. Now, Phidarian Mathis isn't like the most athletic guy. He doesn't have like the highest ceiling that's going to have like this crazy pass rush potential like a Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen, like a double-digit sack guy. But again, he has a specific niche where, I mean, we saw how good John Ridgeway was last year. I feel like Phidarian Mathis is basically just a slightly better John Ridgeway. I feel like there's a reason Phidarian Mathis went in the second round and John Ridgeway went in the 5th. Even though entering the draft, I'm not going to sit here and lie, I didn't think there was that much of a gap between the two for there to be a 2nd round pick and a 5th round pick difference in those guys. But I still feel like Phidarian Mathis is going to be the better player. And the fact that we just have John Ridgeway as backup is just insane to me. That's crazy depth. We thought we were going to lose a lot of our interior defensive lineman depth, losing Manionitis and a few other guys, but seems like we picked it right back up, paying Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen long term, and then Phidarian Mathis and John Ridgeway all basically in the same class, because we picked up John Ridgeway off waivers because the Cowboys tried to sneak him onto their practice squad, and the Commanders was like, no, we have an injury and this guy is better than that. He does not need to be on a practice squad. He should be somewhere playing meaningful minutes. And that man, he did his thing last year. Remember the body slam he did? Man, I love John Ridgeway. I love the nasty attitude that he plays with. So that's some great defensive line depth there. And again, with Daron Payne missing practice for at least today, I think those are going to be some big minutes, snaps, and reps that Phidarian Mathis and John Ridgeway are going to get. But of course, when somebody's hurt, a starter's hurt, and then one of the backups moves into the starting role, one of the second stringers moves to the first string roles, that means one of the third stringers moves up to the second string role. So now you also have Abdullah Anderson, David Bada, and Benning Patoa that are all going to get a little bit more snaps, a little bit more of a look to see what they could do and fight for their chance to make this roster spot. Because between those like 7 names I've given you, between the starters, the second stringers, the third stringers, and then technically Benning Patoa at the very back, if that's where you want to put them, we really only have like 4, max 5 interior defensive lineman spots. And again, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Phidarian Mathis, and John Ridgeway got the first 4 held down. So even if we keep 5, it's a fight, a 3-way fight for that last 1 spot. And again, that's if we keep 5. So Abdullah Anderson, who we picked up from free agency, ex-Falcons player. David Bada was already here last year. He's an international guy that Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, and all of those guys really like, but he's never been able to really stick onto the team officially and actually get like meaningful minutes in games. And then Benning Patoa, I don't really consider him part of the race, but he always sticks around, and you never know. Maybe he just has this huge jump in development. But either way, I'm really excited to see what these younger guys can do with Daron Payne sitting out. That's always the bright side to veterans having to miss practice for whatever reason. Just like when Chase Young and Montez Sweat were holding out, that just meant more snaps for everybody else behind them. And so I'm really excited to see what those guys behind Daron Payne do with those snaps and those opportunities. I hope they make the most of it. They better make the most of it. Now, just to give y'all an update on what's going on in practice today, hopefully you watch this video before training camp takes place, because practice starts at 9 a.m. It's already started. It's 9:10 a.m. while I'm recording this, so we're already starting. People are already started to come in, like Josh Harris, Marty Herney. Again, even like Ryan Clark is there. It's like a really random event right now. I mean, you have the director of player development, Malcolm Blacken, the director of football ops, Brian Porter. I mean, we just have so many people that don't normally just be at a training camp practice at training camp. This is like a real like event being thrown right now, a real like celebration. But again, there's no pads, there's no fans, and most importantly, Josh Harris will be in attendance to practice. He's like front row right now, like having the time of his life, smiling his tail off. I'm gonna come out with the video uploading all of those clips from what I'm talking about, but I mean, he looks really excited about practice. Of course, this practice is closed to the public. We won't get a public practice until like a couple of days, I believe, but today at the very least is closed off. John Com said that it's going to be low 80s in the morning and humid, so that's not too bad. At least it's not in the 90s. It's going to get in the 90s eventually later on, I believe. And then we also have some press conferences from Sam Howell, Antonio Gibson, Daron Payne, and Derek Forrest. I'm really intrigued by the Daron Payne one because we'll get to hear him talk about it. And I don't think the injury is bad at all. I mean, the fact that he's day to day, and again, like I said, I feel like if there were a game today, he would play. I don't feel like it's that bad, but I would love to hear it from him personally. And of course, I want to hear from Sam Howell, especially him being the potential starting quarterback. Antonio Gibson, how his new role is going to be with Eric Bieniemy, how optimistic he is about how impactful he's going to be in this offense. Because I think Antonio Gibson is going to really explode onto the scene. And with us being a better team, Josh Harris, new owner, Eric Bieniemy involved, I think Antonio Gibson is finally going to get a lot of the notoriety that he deserves. Just like how Terry McLaurin and Jonathan Allen are starting to finally get their flowers, I think Antonio Gibson is probably one of the guys next in line. So I'm excited to hear about how he feels about Eric Bieniemy's offense. And then I really want to hear from Derek Forrest because we just rarely hear from that guy, and he's crazy talented. So I'm intrigued by that as well. So man, we have some really interesting press conferences after this. I already uploaded some of the highlights and some of the most notable moments from the Ron Rivera press conference. Make sure you go check that out. That's on the way. That will probably come out at like 12 p.m. I believe. And so then I'm also going to break down what Ron Rivera said in this press conference and talk about some of the most important points from it, and then give my analysis of that as well. So stay tuned for that. And then of course with the Sam Howell, Antonio Gibson, Daron Payne, and Derek Forrest press conferences, I'm also going to break those down for you as well with some of the most important quotes and interesting things that they said. So stay tuned for that too. And again, of course I'm going to keep y'all updated on everything Daron Payne, anything injury wise. It sounds like Jamin Davis is a full go. He wasn't really practicing during mandatory mini camps and voluntary OTAs. John Ridgway sounds like he should be good to go. I haven't heard anything from Casimir Allen, but I also haven't heard anything negative. So sounds like he's probably returned from his hamstring injury. So as of right now, Daron Payne is like the only real injury that we're dealing with right now. And it's just a day-to-day toe injury. Again, I feel like if we had to play today, he would play. And then I guess you just have my boy tight end Armani Rogers, who got sent to IR. But other than that, the Commanders are pretty much as healthy as you can be entering a training camp. The NFL is literally just built for your team to not be healthy. It's just impossible, and we're just as healthy as it just about gets. So I'm really excited about that, very optimistic, and we are lucky to be where we are. And so of course, man, that's the end of this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that. And of course, also let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything that I discussed in this video, most notably Daron Payne's injury. Do you feel like it's something to worry about, or are we good to go? Don't worry about it, it's whatever. Also let me know how you feel about Josh Harris and all of these important members like of the front office and stuff of this franchise being at practice today. Like, how interesting is that? And even random people like Ryan Clark being there at practice today, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like a movie out there right now. So let me know how you feel about all of that, of course. And man, appreciate all of the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. I'm gonna catch y'all later with more updates, coming out with so many videos a day because there's so much going on. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.